Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Beginner's Mind Show. Our guest today, the special guest today, is Mr. Harjeet Khanduja, Senior Vice President, Human Resources at Reliance Jio, author, speaker, influencer, inventor, poet, and visionary HR leader. Humor is a superpower, and he's very popular on LinkedIn for his little nuggets of wisdom through his small stories that everybody can relate to, and they go viral very often. Harjeet has set multiple greenfield projects and handled HR for large multinational organizations in various geographies, including India, US, and Canada. His experience spans a range of industry sectors that include automotive, manufacturing, pharma, alternate energy, ITITS, telecom, digital, healthcare, retail, across the spectrum, with some of the country's leading business houses such as Tata, Reliance, and Piramal. He's a Thomson medalist from IIT Roorkee and has completed his management education from INSEAD. Harjeet has published 3 patents in the area of HR technology, and those are the areas we'll be taking a deep dive in apart from his journey today in the areas of HR, culture building, leadership. He's been conferred with several HR leadership awards, including HR Personality of the Year, LinkedIn Power Profile for several years, Top 100 HR Minds, Top 100 Global Thought Leaders of 21, and Top 50 HR Tech Leaders. It is such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, Simerjeet.
Thank you so much for taking out the time for this conversation. And I saw in one of your videos, Harjeet, that you mentioned that teaching was one of your passion as you were growing up, teaching and acting. And of course, you write poetry also. How did all of this lead to HR? How did the dots connect?
The first is thank you for inviting me to your show. I have watched several episodes of your show, and I was happy to see, and I am happy to be here on your show. What was the reason that you invited me?
I loved one of the top reasons was that you're able to pack in so much insightful stuff in a few lines. That was something that intrigued me. The Upma Idli conversation, you post this Upma Idli conversation between you and your wife, and then there is a nugget of wisdom there, very profound, yet packaged in so few words and very simply put across about decision making. And I was like, wow. And that was one of the reasons. And the second reason why we thought is we've had a lot of thought leaders who are professional speakers or influencers or keynote speakers or motivational speakers, etc., across the world from different fields, subject matter experts in their fields. We haven't had a lot of people from the industry itself, Harjeet, and who've actually spent a long period of time in the industry. And then because their wisdom, their inputs are going to come from I'm not saying other folks are all theoretical, but yours is going to come from what's happening, raw, and the moment, and what you see happen. So we wanted your perspective too.
Yeah, the way you said that you picked me accidentally. So there are a lot of accidents which happened with me in the past. Similar to that, my father was a professor.
Okay.
In Bareilly College. He used to teach physics. So my biggest ambition in my life for the entire childhood was that I want to be a teacher.
Okay.
And when you get brought up like that, then you feel like, acha, this is what I want to do. And then I was a huge fan of Amitabh Bachchan. I think everyone was at that point in time. So I used to think, okay, there will be a time when Amitabh Bachchan will retire and like industry will need another Amitabh Bachchan. This was like when I was a kid.
Right.
7-8 years in my veranda. This was the thought process I had, that industry will need another Amitabh Bachchan. So I will be there to fill the gap. But unfortunately, he did not retire.
I love that.
So I had to pick the profession. And look, my father wanted me to be a doctor.
Okay, as most Indian parents do, right?
Yeah, actually, he wanted me to experience different kind of professions. So he took me to an engineer, he took me to a doctor, he took me to say n number of people. He tried to give me all the opportunities which a parent would like to give, but
Right.
his inner self wanted me to be a doctor. But
Okay.
looking at how my academics was going, he did not have any hope. Okay, acha, theek hai, do something in your life.
Right.
That
Right. If you
was
can't be a
that
doctor, do
was
something.
something
Right.
which was going on. Uh, my friends were going towards engineering, and one of the important decisions of my life, which actually steered the direction in one particular way, that was what my friends were doing. I did not think about my future. I took a decision. Okay, my friends were going for engineering, so I should also be an engineer.
Right.
Became an engineer,
Okay.
and then I was working on assembly line, and there it clicked. The way these guys are working, this is not the efficient way of working.
Right.
And I started talking to the people on the assembly line.
Okay.
I did not know about that there is union or there is some stuff or there is some problem going on. I asked them, okay, the way you are working, you are doing more work than what is required to be done. So can we change the way of working? And then they started giving suggestions. This is what we can do. This is what we can do. I just, whatever I learned in my industrial engineering, I tried to implement that on the line with help of the workers on the line. And it became a big thing that you change the layout of a particular uh, assembly line.
Indeed.
Everyone was like, how did you do it? And I was thinking, this was simple. I talked to them. They did the work, and like they used to come to me and say, sir, let's go, let's do some magic.
Oh, nice. Nice.
So when people saw this, actually Ratan Tata at that point in time came on the line. He walked with me on the line, and then I became a limelight of the plant.
Wow.
And then they said, whatever you have done here, can't you do for the entire plant?
Wow. That was Mr. Tata himself?
Yeah, that
Oh,
was
wow.
Mr. So I got into, say, the central function.
Wow.
And central industrial engineering function that was reporting into HR. So that's how my HR journey started.
Wow.
And since then, I'm in HR, loving my job.
So it's interesting. You're so humble that you say, I just got into engineering. You got into an IIT, Roorkee, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you excelled. Yeah, you did very well, and that the so one thing led to another, and your people skills, your ability to navigate what might have been a very difficult terrain for somebody who went with an agenda. कि मेरे को ये change करवाना है, we've got to make this change. They might have met with a lot of resistance. If you reflect back on that turning point, which led you from engineering into the world of HR and all the magic that you were able to create with your fellow workers at that point of time, what factors, what leadership lessons do you feel as you reflect back emerge out of that? Because managing change, and especially if it's changing the layout or changing technology or changing how things, the way things are done, usually is a very slippery territory. A lot of leaders shy away from it. There is usually a lot of resistance. What lessons, as you reflect back on it, might emerge from that, Harjeet?
Look, um, there is a philosophy. They say that whatever has worked for you earlier, that is not going to work in the future. I have a slightly different view there.
Okay.
What happens is when we start our careers, we have hunger. And we want to do things which other people think are not possible.
Right.
And when we grow in our career, one thing comes which is called ego. Second is called that, okay, this is the formula for success. So we start generating that heuristics and we say, okay, this worked for me in the past. The same thing is going to work for me in the future. What we forget is how that worked. I will tell you an instance. In my last company, there was a problem with the there was a problem going on with a set of people who were working on a particular process.
Okay.
My operations head was discussing with me. We were in the lobby and we were discussing. My managing director passed by.
Okay.
He looked at both of us. He asked, "What are you guys doing here?"
Mm.
I said, "There is a problem which workers are facing. So we are discussing that how to solve that problem."
Mm-hmm.
So he said, "Why are you discussing?" I said, "I'm the HR head of the company." So he said, "That is not the point.
Mm.
Point is, why are you not sitting with them and solving the problem? It is
Right.
their problem. They will know the solution. Why
Mm-hmm.
are you trying to double guess or guess what the solution should be?
And then
You are
impose it.
smarter
Mm-hmm.
than them."
Right.
And if you see, whatever I did in my first assignment,
Mm-hmm.
finally I did the same thing there. I asked those people what is their problem and how to solve them, and I solved it for them.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever we start thinking that we are solving the problem, that creates a bigger problem.
Indeed. Well said. Well said.
I will tell you a very good story. So
Please.
one of my friends
Mm-hmm.
was he went in the sea with his daughter.
Okay.
Daughter was on his shoulders, and
Right.
he was going in the sea to give her an experience of that. Look, this is how sea looks like, and
Right.
he went inside.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, then a big wave came.
Mm-hmm.
He was all over water. Water was all over him.
Mm.
His daughter told him,
Mm.
"Don't worry, don't worry, you will not drown. I am holding you."
Ah, so sweet. So sweet. Right.
The point here is,
Mm-hmm.
when we sit in the company on the shoulders of the company, many a times we think that we are driving the company. It is the other way around.
Is the other way around. And I think as you rightly pointed out, that it is the ability to sit and have a dialogue and not try to figure it out for them and include them in the process right from the beginning. You're talking from a corporate perspective, and as with most of your LinkedIn posts, most that I have seen, you usually begin with a personal life incident and then connect it back to HR or the corporate world. I'm going to do a reverse here. You mentioned a corporate scenario, and I think one of the number one issues why of interpersonal friction these days, whether it's between friends or between family members or even between employees, especially in the work from home scenario, is the lack of proactive communication in which all the elements are involved, whether it's listening or empathy or asking relevant questions or showing appreciation or things like that. I was having a word with my staff the other day, Harjeet, and I was just sharing with them this personal philosophy that communication is the one tool that you have, your power of expression and your power of understanding and your power of empathy. These are those tools which, if you use them well, they can solve the toughest of problems. You can find middle ground. You can find something that takes you forward. And if you choose to not use these tools, even these smallest situations, which otherwise could have been ignored, have the potential of blowing up into something bigger because you're not exercising your power to communicate and interact with others. Your thoughts on this subject?
So I would say you are right. Communication is something which is very essential for any relationship to build. It is basically, look, the problem with work from home scenario is either you define the work. It is not that work from home is something new.
Right.
If you see work from field, most of the sales guys actually work from field, and it has been working for years.
Right.
Why did it not fail? It did not fail because you have defined targets. You know whether the person is performing, not performing. If the person is not performing, you know I have to invest time with this person.
Right.
For the other job roles, actually this is not defined in a crystal clear manner.
That's a
So you
challenge.
don't want to know whether this is happening or this is not happening. And once you don't have that view, you can't handhold people. And if you can't handhold people, the glue between you and the people. And look, in a smaller organization, if you have, say, few hundred or few thousand people, actually, the moment you get into thousands, that glue becomes very, very important.
It does.
You don't talk to the person you're living with in home, then also friction happens.
Of
So,
course.
so how can you expect that when you are meeting virtually, long distance relationships, it is the communication issue.
Right.
So right now, what we are doing is we are into long distance
That's a
relationships.
great analogy.
We are
Right.
trying to make them work as if you are meeting every day.
Right.
So that's where the
I'm
problem is.
just thinking of my 20s long distance relationships, since you mentioned. Right. I get it. Wonderful, wonderful analogy there. Yeah. And it has been, and I think a lot of issues have snowballed during this time, and leaders need to be more proactive. Now, your thoughts on this, since you brought this work from home thing up, and the challenges of it, and what does the future look like for the workforce in terms of now that we are here in March 2022? Thankfully, no new variants are to be reported. Thankfully, there is airlines, the international travel has opened up. Hotels are taking bookings. A lot of signals of hope, which I came back very optimistic from. The only in-person conference that I spoke to in the last 2 years was the meeting of general managers of Marriott hotels for North India. And they were all looking at their books and talking about the numbers. Everything looked very optimistic. And I came back very happy from that. Like, look, let's get geared up. Travel is going to happen again. Conference is going to kickstart again. And then a new variant came across. Now, a lot of changes were forced on us during this time. Digital communication and these Zoom calls and so many other things happened. Do you feel some part of it is here to stay? From both perspectives, talk to us from both perspectives, because there's a rift, if I can use that word, between the leaders want people back at work. Many IT leaders, surveys in the US, the ones that I read, India could be different, but a lot of them say we want to see people, working back in the head office. Many other parts of the world as well. Employees are very comfortable with this new model, especially in the IT industry. Speak to us from a macro perspective of what the future looks like in terms of, specifically for India, as far as the changing work scenario is concerned.
So the way I see the future is some of this will stick.
Right.
And I will actually tell you a story. So that way I'm able to communicate better.
Sure. We love stories.
So I know this guy, Prasad. So he was struggling when the pandemic started. So I was struggling that I will not get my pension. I was 70 years old. So I thought I will help him out. So what they have to do is they have to go to the pension office, and pension officer says, yeah, this guy is alive, so his pension should continue.
Right.
Now, this guy was worried that how will I go to the pension office? It is a lockdown scenario and things like that. So I called the pension officer. He said, sir, not a problem at all. He will come on the WhatsApp call and I will verify. So I told him, boss, you are going to get onto a WhatsApp call. He will verify. So I thought he would be happy. He was furious.
Really? Okay.
He was furious. He said, if this was possible, then why he made me go to this office for past 7 years?
For several years. That's a great story. That is a great story indeed.
Now, thing is, there are many things which we have invented in past few years. Due to this pandemic, we have simplified some of the processes for people.
Correct.
And once we have sorted some of those problems, those things are going to stick, or those things should stick. People have learned that how to order online. So that
Yeah.
saved a huge amount of money for the e-commerce industry. That is what they wanted all along, that
Right.
people start ordering online.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now your question is, will e-commerce work, or people will go to shops to buy? Point is, whatever is convenient to people now, cloud kitchens have started working.
Right.
People have started thinking in that manner that digital is the future.
Sure.
It came, it shrunk the timeline. So
It did indeed.
we are seeing that this is what is going to happen in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever the timeline was there earlier,
Mm-hmm.
now the end date is relatively nearer.
Sure.
So in the office context also,
Mm-hmm.
the end date has shrunk. We have come to know what are the shortcomings of working from home.
Mm-hmm.
Now, entire great resignation scenario which is happening,
Yep.
that is also, business is there for business. So
Mm-hmm.
business has to look at how to make the best use of people. Now, IT folks want to love working from home. Moment you define and decide that this is how their job is measurable and we don't need them in the office, and their productivity will be higher if they work from home. So
Mm-hmm.
role by role, you may take those decisions rather
Sure.
than panicking. So solution is not that bring everyone to office every
Mm-hmm.
day, and
Mm-hmm.
solution is not that put everyone in work from home scenario
Right.
endlessly.
Right. It's to understand the specific deliverables, the challenges, the opportunities there, and then do it role by role, as you said. I love what you also mentioned about. You've said something very profound about disruption there. You said whatever is convenient is going to stick around, and I think at the heart of every disruption is convenience. It's questioning, challenging, and reinventing an old model, which was redundant. Perhaps just the example that you mentioned about this age verification, or what they call the life certificate they have to submit. The pensioners have to submit that every year to prove that they are alive and they are the folks who are actually using that pension. That's a wonderful story right there, and I think we this past 2 years they put us in a position where we could see where the gaps were, we could see where the inefficiencies were, and now the disruption is going to happen, and because it's all geared up towards something more efficient in the future.
Let me put it in a different manner.
Sure.
Look, we are thinking disruption from work from home scenario perspective. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
disruption is happening at a much bigger level.
Mm-hmm.
If you see Uber drivers,
Mm.
now, do they need to work from office? Do they need to come to office?
Mm-hmm.
They have come to a platform.
Mm.
They decide when they want to come, when they
Mm-hmm.
want to work, how much
Right.
they want to work,
Mm-hmm.
which days they want to take leaves.
Mm-hmm.
And it is all linked to their performance, which is visible on their app transparently.
Right.
Do you have similar kind of infrastructure and ecosystem for all other roles
Mm.
in the organization?
Mm-hmm.
That is where the disruption will happen. More and more jobs are going to get transformed into platform based organizations.
Right.
Uh,
Platform based.
if you see,
Mm-hmm.
after Uber,
Mm-hmm.
there was Airbnb.
Mm-hmm.
After Airbnb, uh, like whatever we call urban company.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone is trying to, popularly called gig, everyone is trying
Mm-hmm.
to build platforms so that jobs can be easier.
Mm-hmm.
Now, our software friends,
Mm-hmm.
would they not like to work on their own terms
Mm-hmm.
um, in a scenario where they are contributing their services on a platform like Upgrade, which is not very popular as of now? So,
Right.
this entire model has to shift.
Sure.
And for that, there will be new HR practices, new
Mm-hmm.
business practices, new legal terms.
Mm-hmm.
I was traveling with a Uber driver, and
Mm.
he was also like some 62, 63 years old, white hair. So I asked him, "Why are you driving Uber?"
Mm.
This guy said, "Sir, my I retired from the job, but my responsibilities did not retire." So I said, uh, "That's fine. So he said, look, these guys gave me job looking at my driving license. They did not look at my age.
Right.
So
While a
the
traditional employer must definitely have taken that into consideration. Yeah.
now, if you see the traditional industry model, 58
Mm.
years you retire, 9 hours of work,
Mm-hmm.
these many holidays you can take, these many
Mm-hmm.
holidays you can't take. Can you work in the new economy, which is a platform based economy, with
Mm-hmm.
the rules of the past?
Mm. That's a strong question there, right?
So the entire policy ecosystem has to change,
Mm-hmm.
and it is changing as we
Mm-hmm.
move forward day by day.
Mm-hmm.
And like earlier, I was talking to a Uber driver. I said, you were doing agriculture in your village, and
Mm.
now you have come here in the city.
Mm-hmm.
You are making the same money, I believe.
Mm.
So why are you here? He said,
Mm-hmm.
sir, uh, respect.
Mm.
When I drive Uber here,
Mm-hmm.
I make the same amount of money, but when I go to my village,
Mm.
people look up to me.
Mm.
They don't look down on me.
Right.
And moment you convert anything into technology, that profession, like the way we used to say our earlier generations used to look at professions like dancing or
Right.
professions like acting. Right now,
Right.
you see how those professions look like and how much money those professions make.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier, if you say, okay, your kid wants to be singer, the
Mm.
person has to be, I
Mm.
want engineer or doctor in my
Right.
house.
Of course. And one of the primary concerns behind that was money or financial security. Right.
Yeah. So now, when we are opening up and financial security is coming, or with platform-based organizations, it is going in the interiors of the country.
Mm-hmm.
Then uh, we are creating an equitable society,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which is a
and
very good
that
thing.
is, that is something which is important.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, now, I think I will stop here with this question, and then
No, very well said. Now, let me also remind the viewers, Harjeet, you asked me in the beginning, why did I invite you? And let me also tell the viewers here that Harjeet was recently listed by Leaders Hum as the one of the top leadership voices to watch out for 2022. So it's indeed some very profound thoughts that you have shared in a very simple way. What I loved that you just talked about a new set of rules, a new set of policies, a new mindset. May I ask you now, would we also need a new set of expectations as far as the workforce goes? Is loyalty going to be a thing of the past, with this gig worker economy coming in and these platform based model that you were talking about? What are your views on that? Because to build a strong team, you see, I have a small team, and as far as the numbers go, very, very small. We're a close knit team, and for me, communication is really important. Trust is very important, and these are very important things, for a small and medium enterprise. How do you feel those things might shift, given the technological impact of work from home and other things, and how is it going to impact, if at all, and how? So there's three questions rolled into one. So let us hear your views on the first two, and then my third is going to be, what can leaders do in case you feel that there is going to be a drop in terms of the connect or engagement of employees during this time?
so if you see the West, it works in a more professional manner. I'm not saying we don't work in a professional manner. What I'm saying is uh, that the inclination is on uh, the contract.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is what the contract is, and I am going to deliver on that contract. You are going to pay money for the work I am doing.
Right. It's clearly laid out. Right.
Yeah. And if you see Indian context, in Indian context, the relationships matter a lot,
A lot.
and work happens based on how strengthened your relationships are.
I agree.
Now, how Indian context is changing. And let's not get into business. Okay, let's get into business, but through a public life example.
Sure.
If you see cricket, and that is something which is very popular in India.
Yeah.
So they moved from a one-day format to a T20 format. And moment they moved into a T20 format, the viewership increased. One is the time which it takes to complete the match. That was one factor, and another factor was now there are more matches, more people playing.
Right.
So you created a bigger opportunity. And you see how the compensation of these guys are decided. They sit and they auction.
Auctions, right.
Where is loyalty coming? Mahendra Singh Dhoni is still playing for Chennai Super Kings. Now, there is a relationship. And there are players which get dropped by the teams based on performance. So, it is still performance and relationships. What we have done in the Indian context, we have mixed both of them. And we have created a new mesh.
Right.
In our mesh, relationship is slightly higher than performance.
Usually is. The fact that I like you or you get along with me, that's more important than how well you perform, right?
And of course, teams win. It is not the individual player win. Players win the matches for you. So same is true for companies when you're selecting people. You are actually bringing in people who can work together, who can play together, and you are ready to pay any amount of money for the right players. As of now, auction is happening for these guys. In future, you will see auction happening for all the top leaders. Actually, it does happen right now when people are having 3 offers and
multiple
negotiating
job
with the
offers
companies
right,
at the same time. So it does happen, although it doesn't come in the public eye that often.
Of course. No, thank you for sharing that with us. And yes, where talent, there are a couple of things that with the playground that is going to be more even as technology steps in. Let's say if we talk about not the leadership, but maybe a couple of levels below, and there is let's say a programmer or or somebody else who can add a graphic designer or somebody else who's very creative can add value regardless of where he or she is sitting. Earlier, there used to be a geographical constraint of, how far they can penetrate in terms of market penetration. And now, thanks to freelance work and these portals and work from home environments, they can now, and they usually do, you have people sitting in the Philippines or Bangladesh or the US, elsewhere, and auctions are happening online with you post I saw this website, it's called 99 Designs perhaps. You put up a project there and then people bid for it, and they even submit samples. You pick the one you like, the person completes it. So that war for talent, the driving force behind this is a war for talent, that it's going to be, there is going to be a war for talent. It's already happening.
And you were talking about skills. Let's take the same cricket example. If you're thinking skills are going to change from one day to T20, it is the same skill, it is the same batting, it is the same bowling.
Right.
What has happened is now suddenly the peripheral skills, they have become important.
Sure.
So running between the wickets, that has become important. Or say fielding becomes important. Whether you are a match winner or not, that becomes important. So along with your core skills, there are other skills which become important.
Indeed.
I will tell you another story.
Yeah, please.
I was talking to a Uber driver, and I saw like he was near 5 rating with 5,000 trips.
Okay.
So I asked him, this is huge.
Impressive.
How did you do it? So he said, sir, very first day of the driving, I understood customers are not going to rate me for the job which I have got, which is driving. Driving is the primary skill for which I got the job, but customers don't rate me on driving. Customers rate me on conversations.
Wow.
Customers rate me on comfort in the cab,
Or
cleanliness
cleanliness,
of
right?
the cab. So
Wow.
I focus on these parameters.
Right.
I don't focus on the core job for which I have been hired. Of course, that is something which I have to do. Same applies to each and everyone working in corporates. And that is how skills are going to change in the future.
That is a great example right there. That there are certain things that are going to be a given. But ये तो होना ही चाहिए. That this has to be there. Is the foundation is the entry criteria. Now, how well do you play on the other criteria? How well do you score on them is going to be a deciding factor. You know, it comes to my mind about this whole transition we made, Harjeet, from me traveling in person to speak at conferences to setting up this virtual studio environment here in the office, etc. So I understood this, that of course the content that we bring and the humor that we bring and the interaction that we bring and the stories and inspiration that we add value is on one side, but in a digital world, how well it is reaching our audiences. Are they able to hear it well? Are they able to see it well? Is there a way I can read their comments? All of these things we realized as we got into it. This was learning on the job because we had no clue how to do all of this before. You know, we figured out every technical challenge on our own. In fact, one of the issues was eye contact. Because I have a large screen sitting here, and then I have the HD camera behind here. If I look at the screen to make eye contact with the people, I lose eye contact with the people because I'm looking at their faces. It was quite a challenge, and then we figured out a way around it. And those small things we felt seemingly insignificant things made a huge impact in this new playing ground, wherein people have probably heard me before, or there was some degree of connect on social media, etc. And they were looking forward to this conversation. But now these other skills, which were not part of my domain earlier, also became significantly important. So much so that they could tilt the balance of scales one way or the other. So thank you for bringing that very simple story, which conveys a very profound message about the Uber driver, about the skills. There's some things are going to be for granted, and it's the extra mile, the other things, which brings me to a very important question for our youngsters, because a lot of our audience is young people across here in the Indian subcontinent, across different parts of the world. What should somebody who's doing a bachelor's degree, for example, at the moment, and is eagerly looking forward to their first employment, you know, they have a student loan, they want to pay that off, and then they want to be a part of that organization, and they want to succeed and do well, and they weren't prepared for this world. What they learned back in college, perhaps the curriculums did not take into account the upheaval that COVID-19 is going to spread. All these radical changes that have come in. How should young people be preparing for skills of the future, and what are the skills of the future in your perspective?
So I will again tell you a story.
We love stories.
So when the pandemic started, my dry cleaner called me. So he called me, and I picked up the phone. He said, "Do you need vegetables?" Like, vegetables?
Okay.
I checked the number again. I said, "Yeah, it is dry cleaner only." I said, "You are a dry cleaner. Your core skill is dry cleaning. How come you are selling vegetables?"
That's a HR person telling him your core skill, remember? Right.
So he said, "Sir, my core skill is not dry cleaning. My core skill is adaptability."
Oh, wow.
Yesterday, you needed dry cleaning, so I was doing dry cleaning. Now you need vegetables, so I am supplying vegetables.
Fantastic.
And this is one thing which all the new people who are coming in the industry, they should remember. Because if you are adaptable, future is not going to be the reflection of the past.
Indeed.
Future will be very different. And if you have to deal with something which is different, you have to be open to what is happening around you and take the advantage of those opportunities. Otherwise, if you just get into a traditional world, the way it used to happen, then you will not be able to exploit the opportunities which can take you to a different growth trajectory. And that I believe is something which all the new students should follow.
Thank you so much. So, for all the young people listening, I think very important words there about the future. For those of you who are worried about the future, it's your course. One of your core skills should be adaptability, should be changing according to the demands of the economy and what new skills you should learn. Don't get, I always talk about this, Harjeet, is I urge students to design their own curriculum parallel to what their institutions have. It's like learning after you're done with the formal learning in the school or college in the classroom. Now that we have access to all this digital media, make the best use of it. So that was concerning youngsters. Now, you've worked with some of the leading business houses of the country, the Tatas, Reliance, Piramal, and you have a vast experience in HR. What makes a great place to work, in your opinion? What should a leader who wants to ensure that his work environment is a great place to work, what should she be doing?
So if you are willing to listen, like if your ears are big, then you can be a good place to work. So I went to Delhi sometime back. Sometime back means 3.5 years back.
When we used to travel.
So I sat in the cab and I said, there is so much pollution in Delhi. Why do you think there is so much pollution in Delhi?
Me?
And the cab driver responded. Cab driver said, sir, if you don't mind, it is because of people like you.
Oh, okay.
And I was like taken aback. What is this guy saying? He said, you could have shared the taxi. And that was a realization. So these kind of realizations happen when you listen to people, and then you can actually make your place a great place to work.
Right.
And listening is very important. Many a times we think that we know. It is not that we are always right. I know my wife very well. So I thought, so what she does is she is doing a video call with her friends. So I thought I will, now when she is holding her phone back, phone like this, that okay, I'm doing video call. So I thought I will gift her a mobile phone stand so that she can keep it still.
Right.
And she can have a very stable video call. Now I know her need. I ordered that stand, it came, and she was not excited at all.
Okay.
So then what happened? She said, I can't sit and talk. When I am talking with my friends, I have to walk.
Right.
So this stand is of no use to me because this will make me sit at one place.
Right. Okay. You thought you knew what she wanted, right?
So don't assume that you know what your people want. And if you're doing those assumptions, then you can never be a great place to work.
Wow.
Another is, look, if you are listening, and after listening, it is not that you have to agree to anything or everything which people are saying.
Sure.
Have discussions. That what is good for the organization, what is not good for the organization, be part of solving their problems and tell them, look, this is what organization is looking for. So if they understand why they are doing what they are doing, then chances of your people contributing to your business will be much, much higher. If you see some of the parties which took up this philosophy of going to the grassroots level and holding meetings with people, their hit rate of winning were much, much better. So it is not who you are, it is Whether you are sitting with people, whether you are listening to them, whether you are trying to solve problems with all the honesty or not.
Mm-hmm.
uh, and same way, when you are sitting with the business leaders, you are
Mm.
connecting with them and truly trying to solve the business problems as you move forward.
Sure, sure. And one of the vital components of that, as you said, is to fight your bias or your assumptions, wherein you're sort of coming to a conclusion from your experience. This is what might be best for that person. I love that part about have a discussion instead, and then nobody leaves with any bitter sort of feeling that my voice wasn't heard. At the end of the day, everybody wants their voice to be heard, and so that inclusivity is going to make a huge difference. So thank you for your thoughts on that. You freely shared a lot of your inspiring little stories there. We loved all of them, and great takeaways in every single one of them. Before we let you go, आपकी हिंदी कविता कोई सुनना चाहते हैं? आई नो दैट यू राइट और लिखते भी हैं आप, परफॉर्म भी करते हैं, तो इज़ देयर समथिंग जो खास करके अगर करंट टाइम्स के लिए रेलेवेंट हो तो इवन बेटर?
ओके, पुरानी कविता है
जी।
रात के 11 बजे थे,
हम्म।
हम गली के नुक्कड़ पे खड़े थे, चारों तरफ सन्नाटा था, हमारे हाथ में आटा था। डर के मारे हमारी जान निकली जा रही थी, गली में रहने वाले कुत्ते की स्पेसिफिकेशन याद आ रही थी। गली में मिल जाए तो नुक्कड़ तक दौड़ाता था, कभी कभी तो बोटी भी नोच खाता था। हमने गली में झांक के गौर से गली का मुआयना किया, फिर सावधानी पूर्वक गली में प्रवेश किया। आधे रास्ते में पहुंच के हमें वो महाकाल नजर आया, हमें देखते ही जोर से गुर्राया। हम जहां खड़े थे वहीं थम गए, हमारे पांचों तंत्र एक साथ जम गए। हमारी हालत देख के वो हौले से मुस्कुराया, फिर हमारे पास तक आया, बोला, अबे यार क्या करता है, आदमी होकर कुत्ते से डरता है, जा निकल जा, जा निकल जा, नहीं काटूंगा, सच्ची बोलता हूँ पैर भी नहीं चाटूंगा। हमने कहा, कुत्ता जी आप तो शक्ल से ही जेंटलमैन नजर आते हैं, लोग बेकार में आपके बारे में उल्टी सीधी उड़ाते हैं, और आपका नेचर तो इतना आला है। तो बोला, चुप बे, इलेक्शन आने वाला है।
मजा आ गया। The last punchline is, oh wow, अभी पंजाब में इलेक्शन होके हटे हैं, so I could it sinks in even more. क्या बात है, मज़ा आ गया। और what I loved is your multi-dimensional personality. There's so many dimensions. You're so very approachable, so humble. You freely shared your wisdom. We're deeply grateful for that. और before we let you go, कविता तो हो गई, जाने से पहले especially for our जो young हमारी जो audience है इंडियन सब कॉन्टिनेंट से, जिनमें देश भर में, न सिर्फ देश भर में, नेपाल, पाकिस्तान, श्रीलंका, भूटान, लॉट ऑफ दीज कंट्रीज़, और इंडिया में भी हर जगह के जो युवा जुड़े हुए हैं, उनके लिए आप जाते जाते हिंदी में चंद शब्द कहें तो हमें बहुत अच्छा लगेगा।
अपने आप पे विश्वास करना है, अपने आप पे विश्वास करेंगे तो आगे बढ़ेंगे। किसी की कोई फालतू बात सुननी नहीं है। कोई अगर आपके बारे में बोलता है कि आप अच्छे नहीं हो, मेरे को बचपन में बहुत लोगों ने बोला कि ये तो कुछ कर ही नहीं सकता है। सो आपने कपिल देव को देखा होगा 83 में, वो बोल रहे थे ना कि ये लोग जो बोल रहे हैं इनके सवालों का जवाब यहाँ नहीं देना है, इनके सवालों का जवाब फील्ड में देना।
क्या बात।
तो बस वही चीज का ध्यान रखना।
और कई बार अक्सर यही होता है हरजीत, दैट यंगस्टर्स जवाब देने में उलझ जाते हैं, किसी चीज़ को दिल पे ले लेते हैं और या किसी चीज़ को सच समझ लेते हैं। आई थिंक ये लेस ब्राउन की कहावत थी, डोंट लेट समवन्स ओपिनियन ऑफ यू बिकम योर रियलिटी, डोंट लेट समवन ओपिनियन ऑफ यू बिकम योर रियलिटी। और आपने बखूब कहा कि उसका जवाब आपको पिच पे देना है और अपने जीवन के मैदान में देना है।
मैं स्टोरी सुना इस पे?
हाँ, वाई नॉट, ज़रूर, प्लीज़।
मैं रात को सो रहा था एंड मुझे सुबह जल्दी उठ के कुछ करना था, सो माय फोकस वाज ऑन स्लीप। तभी अचानक से एक मच्छर आया, वो आके मेरे कान में घूं किया, एंड देन माय एंटायर फोकस वाज ऑन दैट मॉस्किटो एंड आई फॉरगॉट स्लीपिंग।
I get you.
मेरे बेटे ने मुझे बोला,
हम्म,
और मच्छर कान में ऐसे घूं किया था, आपको पंखा तेज कर लेना चाहिए था,
हम्म,
या आपको मॉस्किटो रिपेलेंट डाल लेना चाहिए था,
हम्म,
एंड आराम से स्लीप पे फोकस करना चाहिए था, ना कि
राइट,
मच्छर पे फोकस करके अपनी नींद खराब करनी चाहिए थी।
हम्म, हम्म,
तो अपने फोकस पे फोकस रखना है, ना कि मच्छरों पे।
क्या बात है, क्या बात है, अपने फोकस पे फोकस रखिए और मच्छर तो आते जाते रहेंगे। मच्छरों का मुकाबला करने की जगह अपने फोकस पे फोकस रखिए। दैट्स ब्यूटिफुली सेड। थैंक यू सो मच हरजीत फॉर बीइंग हियर टुडे, फॉर बीइंग हु यू आर, for putting across all these very profound statements in such simple, engaging, and interesting way. We're grateful to have you here today.
And Simar, one good thing about you,
Ji.
like um, you and your team. One is when you write to people, you say, "This is Simerjeet and team."
Mm-hmm.
That shows that you give a lot of respect to your team. I admire you for that.
Thank you, sir.
And second, when we were interacting
Ji.
uh, before this interview, so
Mm-hmm.
you created a WhatsApp group saying Harjeet Khanduja show, although this is Simmer's show. You try to give me that feeling as if it is my show.
Ji.
And you were talking about connection, you were talking about relationship. This is how connection and relationships are built, and you are the best example of it. I feel it is my show, and I am with you
It
in
is
this
very
show.
much. It is very much your show. You're the one who's adding value. I'm just tying it all together. I'm just tying it all together. कितने सालों का wisdom हमने harvest किया है. Career that was built all the way from IIT to Tata's and Reliance and so much. You've been on the front lines. You've worked your way up. You're doing remarkably well. Or my intention was to harvest that wisdom for our audience. You were generous. मैंने तो सिर्फ वो पिरोया है उसको. तो show तो आप ही का था.
Nay. So I will not take the limelight from you. It is your show, and you are doing it very well. I love you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.